Dum-ba-da-dum. Does anyone even use that ringtone anymore? I still love it. Maybe one of the reasons is it's, of course, mandolin, but it also has a lot to do with our lesson that we're going to learn today. We're not going to learn that. I mean, I could teach you that if you needed that, but we're going to learn Black Mountain Rag in the key of A, and we're going to use a lot of double stops and a lot of open strings. It's really built for speed if you're needing to burn this song down. Check out the performance, and I'll tell you more about it. So this song is commonly done in several different keys. I think the first time I heard it was Doc Watson playing it in D, but he was playing it out of a C position on his guitar, just capoed up too. But most often I hear it either in that C, D, or in A. And now if you want to learn it out of a C position, I already have that on the site, and it's more of a flat picking, swingy type lick version, whereas this one's really leaning on that fiddle tradition of double stops, and it's going to be a lot of fun to learn, and it's not too hard. If you're just wanting to learn how to play something that you can do faster, but you don't have a lot of experience on the mandolin, this is a good one to do that with. And if you're watching here on YouTube, if you could give me that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. If you're on Facebook, hit the like button, share this with some friends. And realize that Gold Pick members over at banjobenclark.com, they get access to hundreds of lessons on banjo, mandolin, and guitar. And for this lesson, you can download the tab, and I have jam track MP3s that you can practice along with. Let's talk a little bit more about Black Mountain Rag, particularly the song form, because it is quite a bit different than other fiddle tunes we're used to. Black Mountain Rag traditionally has 3 different parts to it. Now, I said it was different than other fiddle tunes, or a lot of them, because most fiddle tunes that we play have just 2 parts. They'll have what we call an A part, and they'll usually repeat it once. Then they'll go to a B part and repeat that. Some fiddle tunes do have more than those 2 parts. This is one of them. In fact, if you listen to Doc's version, he even puts a 4th part in there. So it would be an A, B, C, and D version. But most of the time when you're jamming it, you don't play that extra part. You're just playing the A, B, and the C, and they differ in different ways. Of course, their melody differs, but I want to show you more about that. Now, when you look at my tab, you Gold Pick members, when you download it, you'll see that the first line looks a little different. Those first 2 measures are just some count-offs that we use with the TEF tab file that plays the tab on your computer so you can hear it and slow it down. That's pretty cool. But when we get to measures 3 and 4, I'll talk more about it, but that's just a kickoff. That's not really part of the tune. When we get into measure 5, that's where the song actually starts with the A part. And that is technically 8 measures long. And if you look at the chord progression, we've got A chord that goes through here, then a half split measure of E and A. Well, the same thing happens on the next line. So really, technically, you could look at this as 2 4-bar 8 parts that are being repeated. But since they're so short, we'll just call it one A part with 8 measures. When we get to the B part, the melody is going to change, but it doesn't change? The length of the B part, it's also 8 measures long. And the chord progression doesn't change. It starts with an A chord, stretches all the way through. We see that split measure once again. Okay, now when we get to the C part, things change. Several things change. One is that we have a different chord progression. So we're going to have a D chord, a 4 chord in it for the first time. And it sounds really nice when that happens because your ear wants to hear something different than just 1, 5, 1. And so it's very gratifying to hear that. But also I want you to look at something else. The C part is twice as long as the other. So this C part truly is like 8 measures long, and then it's repeated. Okay? And like I said, there's another part that some people play, but I don't think you really need to worry about that. You're going to more rarely run up against that. And then finally, at the end of the tab, There's an ending here. And this isn't like technically part of the song, but I love to put endings on my fiddle tunes because you may be looking to know how to end it in a jam or in a band situation. And all of them are different. I write every ending different. So you can even just study my fiddle tune endings just to kind of build up a bunch of cool ending licks. So I invite you to do that. So we'll talk about that, of course, whenever we get there. Okay, so A part, B part, and then the big long C part in the key of A. We're going to do some really cool fiddle type shuffle bow and double stop techniques. We'll talk about that now as we learn how to play it. The first two measures that you see on the tab are called a kickoff. Or another way to refer to that is potatoes. And if you don't know what potatoes are or how to kick off a tune, you can watch a whole lesson on that. So I won't spend a lot of time talking about it here, except to tell you that they're used to establish the tempo and also let other people know when you're going to come in. So I invite you to go check out that lesson. But let's look at that two measures a little closer to point out a couple of other things. One is the pick stroke directions. So we're using a lot of shuffle picking in this shuffle pattern that we're going to see with fiddles. Dum ba da bum ba da bum ba da bum. And that pattern for pick strokes is down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. We're not always going to follow that all the way through, meaning a shuffle pattern, but we always are going to have down strokes on downbeats and up strokes on upbeats. The other thing that I want to point out is that whenever we play two strings at once, that is very common with fiddles, and those are called double stops. So we're going to do essentially the whole song in double stops and even triple stops. So we're really trying to mimic what a fiddle sounds like when it's playing this tune. Now, as we go into the first A part, we talked about the form of the tune earlier, but now I want to talk about actually how to play it. Let's start with a little bit of form with our pick hand. If you haven't watched my pick hand foundations course, I really encourage you to go check that out. But we're going to keep a loose wrist, and we're going to play through those two strings, actually four strings, but two pairs of strings. And our goal is to have them sound just the same volume and good tone when we push down through them as when we come back up. We don't want this, where we play the first string on our down and then our top string on our up. We want down through and drive back up through. Don't worry about if you accidentally hit that D string a little bit. That'll clean up over time. But I'm looking for this kind of movement. I don't want a locked elbow and this kind of movement. That's tempting to do that. I want there to be this spin motion there, and I teach that over on the course. Now, when we're talking about the melody here, let me just go ahead and play it for you. Okay? The melody is in those double stops, of course, and then the other note in the double stop would be a harmony note. What is the melody here? Well, it starts out with the fourth fret on the first two notes, and then it jumps to the first string for the next ones. So melody, 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 melody. Now, it's not going to do this all the way through the song, but I wanted you to just point that out to you here. Does that mean that we play the notes differently based on the melody? Well, not necessarily. As long as we're playing all these, the same volume. What we wouldn't want to do is have, for some reason, a lot of energy being spent on the A string down here, and it's not playing the melody the whole time, right? So we need to try to just be mindful of the melody so that we know that it's being heard whenever we play. Let's try to play that again together. We're going to play it nice and smooth, trying to get good tone with our down and our up strokes. Ready, go. And we've got some repeating in the next line, so it's pretty simple. And that's the end of our A part. And when we go to the B part, we're going to stay up on those top two strings to start with, but our melody is going to kind of take the bottom seat. So the melody now, when we go into the B part, is going to be the bottom notes and our double stops. Okay? So we can begin, if we want, to put a little bit more emphasis on that first string that we're going through, because we're not worried about the melody getting lost. We just want to have the other note there as that harmony. That line sounds like this. Now you might have noticed that we have a hammer on right there at the start of the line. So what am I doing? I'm playing down with a downstroke with the second fret, and then on the end of one, I'm hammering with my middle finger up to the 4th fret. I also have a lesson on hammer-ons if you want to go watch that. The other cool thing is that even when we go down like in measure 16 there, even if we play it all the way through and hit our E string, it still works with the chord. Almost all your open strings work for in one way or the other whenever we're playing this arrangement. When we go to the next line, it's just more repeating. Can you play along with me? Well, I say it's a little bit more, it's more repeating, but we actually get a little bit busier. In measure 17, we got 2 hammer-ons. Really, really a lot of fun to play. As we check out the C part, a few things change. One is we're going to go even lower on our mandolin neck. The mandolin melody is going to switch to the lowest string. And then you'll also see that we have some triple stops. Okay, so I'm playing that A string along with it. And that is totally optional. And while I'm talking about optional things, I want to point out that even these rhythms in here, you see how I have a quarter note, 2 eighth notes, quarter note, quarter note? It's up to you. You could put 2 eighth notes there, 2 eighth notes there. You can make these a quarter note instead. You can play them the whole measure full of eighth notes. What would measure 22 sound like if it was just all eighth notes? That's what it would sound like. Okay, so you have the complete freedom to play these however you want. I'm just giving you the melody notes, and then I've chose a rhythm that we're playing to fill in the space, but you could totally do that. The other thing that you're going to have to do that may be new for you is you're going to have to bar on the 2nd fret down here. So we do this quite a bit. Measure 22, we're going to play both those 2nd frets with our index finger. Here's what it looks like. Now, we don't want to try to bar with our fingers straight up and down. We want to turn it sideways, pointing up towards our opposite shoulder, and flatten it out. And it'll take a little practice. And if you let one of the G strings ring through, it's not a big deal. You'll get better at it. But it's very important that our hand angle's turned like that to be able to bar. And we're going to do that a lot in this C part. We do it there. We do it there, of course. And then we've got there. And then a whole measure of it there. And then at the very end in our ending. Okay, so the actual notes for this one, first line, sounds like this. It's not as hard as you might think initially. These are just positions that feel pretty natural. They're very close to one another. The most difficult part will be from shifting from the bar back to your normal position. And you just have to do it really quick. See how I jump to the bar, jump, and then back out of it. And then I'm going to slide into that 4/7, and sometimes I might even slide after I've played it. Same thing for measure 24. That first beat in measure 24, I may play it before I actually get up to 7 and 11. And it has a pretty cool effect, right? Really a lot of fun. And even if you play all 4 strings, it sounds good. Next line. Now we're over an E chord, and we're going to keep that position and slide it in. 27, 28 sounds like this. But you could do that however you want. You could go, you could put it on an upstroke, or you could do two of them in a row. That's what makes it fun. Then we got repeating, measure 29, we've already seen that. Then we're gonna wrap it up. And in 33, it's a little difficult because we have a quick shift to 4-7 and back to 6-2. And I would advise, instead of trying to slide it up and slide back down, just jump to it. Then we're going to bar. And then we've got our ending, measure 37. I'm going to, like I often do, kind of mimic the melody with the ending. It's just a 4-bar fiddle tune ending. You might be the one playing the ending, or you might not be. But if you do need to play an ending, here's a good one. You've seen some of this before. And then 39. And then we're going to bring in a flat 3 down there. We haven't played that 5th fret down there yet, but it sounds cool. And if you want to play all those strings, that's fine. Let's play it slowly together. Let's now play it slowly together. Don't forget that you can select the playback speed there with the little gear icon. And also don't forget that I have Jam Track MP3s that are downloadable and streamable here for Gold Pick members. The way that those intros work, they'll give you a couple different clicks. So go click, 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 and you'll come in. You'll be able to hear that, and you can listen to the performance MP3 kind of as a reference. And then what I'm going to do, on the Jam Track MP3s, it plays through the potatoes, and then it will play through the entire song 3 times. And after the 3rd time, it will go through the ending. It just lets you loop it a few times before you have to hit repeat. All right, let's try it together. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. A part. B part. Now the C part. Now the ending.